Hey everybody, Tormental here, and I'm doing something a little different on my channel. I don't usually do opinion pieces, but I'm going to do a video titled Five Nights at Freddy's Doesn't Make Any Sense. Alright, I've played the first Five Nights at Freddy's, as you've seen. I played the sequel, as you can see now, since this is footage from my own channel. Yeah, some things in the story totally don't make sense, and I just figured I'd make a video about it because I don't know, I just want to put my opinion out there. I'm a douchebag. Okay, so let's get started as the loading screen is here. Alright, so here are some problems with the Five Nights at Freddy's story. I'm not going to be talking about anything that could be magic, like, ghosts don't exist and machines couldn't be haunted. I'm not going to say stuff like that. But there are some things I will point out that people will most likely say, well, you don't know, that could be because of ghosts or magic. Well, yeah, of course, anything could be because of ghosts or magic. You can't just explain away problems by making up your own excuses. Well, you can, but it's a free country, unless you're watching from a country that isn't free. Anyway, let's get started. Alright, a lot of the problems with this game, in terms of the story, can't be excused as humor. There is humor in the game. There are funny elements. There are things that are tongue-in-cheek. But, it's not a humor game. It's not a comedy. It's a, jump scare horror game with certain flaws in the story that, some might say, oh, well, that's just like a joke. That's a reference to this or reference to that. I don't think so. I'm not feeling the humor on, certain things in the story that are, nonsensical. For example, this restaurant is too fucking dirty. Okay? You can see the grunge on the walls. You can see grime everywhere. In Five Nights at Freddy's 1, you could see just crap. There were, cobwebs and dirt and grime and grunge and just, it's gross and disgusting. This would not pass a fucking health inspection. Nobody would fucking eat here. This would certainly not be a popular restaurant, as popular as they've said, before the bite of 1980 Fugitiva. This is a disgusting place that would not really exist in real life, and if it did, it would be shut down way before there were any problems with the animatronics. Now let's talk about the setup of your office, okay? In Five Nights at Freddy's 1, you need generator power to keep the doors closed. On what planet does that make sense? Where have you ever seen a door that required power to keep it closed? There are maybe vault doors in a bank or something like that, but that's with, because it needs to power the lock, the doors in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, I don't see any vault locks or anything like that on them. It's more like just a drop-down door. Why isn't gravity keeping it in place? When the power goes off and you run out of generator power, it gives the last push of power to open the door. If the power were to go out, I would think the door would just stay down, and the animatronics would be on the other side of it trying to claw it open, trying to pull the door up with no grip, It just doesn't make sense. We got the fact that there are ducts on either side of the office in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Why are the ducts open? Have you ever seen a duct? Have you ever seen an air vent? They have grates over them, specifically for the reason of people, animals, whatever, not climbing around the fuck in them for no reason. Now, again, this is one of those things where people could say, well, maybe the animatronics removed the grates at a past time. And, well, yeah, I mean, maybe that happened, or maybe, Jeebus came down from heaven and said, now is the time for the rapture for all air vent grates. And they disappeared up to heaven with him. I mean, you could come up with any excuse for anything. It still is a thing in the story that doesn't make sense. So, yeah. I don't know. There's certain things like, why would you come back? This is something I hear a lot of people say. You see the animatronics trying to kill you, or even just roaming around. That's creepy as shit. Why are you coming back for a second night, third night, fourth night, fifth night, sixth night? In the special sixth night you can unlock. Why would anybody do that? It doesn't make any sense, and there's no explanation for it. There could be a comedic explanation, like they could say, in the game, oh, well, I may, die in this place, but hell, I'm trying to save up for that Xbox, whatever, Of course, they, don't want to go that comedic with it, but it's just there is no explanation as to why you keep coming back. But more confusing than that is why they would fire you. At the end of Five Nights at Freddy's, spoiler alert, if you play on the custom night where you can set things to 20/20/20 or whatever you want, the end of that is that you get a pink slip firing you for messing with stuff. Okay? You get fired for messing with the animatronics and for odor. Every other person they've had there probably has died. You are the only person who has survived, likely, and they're going to fire you. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, do whatever you want, as long as, could you imagine if you're working as a security guard, and you're the only person who has lived in that job. Everybody else is fucking dead. And, you could crap in the corner of the office, and they would say, oh, please don't do that again, but, we kind of need this guy because he's the only guy who can do the fucking job, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. And that's a little nitpick. A lot of these will be little nitpicks here and there that aren't really, huge problems. There are some huge problems, though. Now we get into the things that are, basically like magic. The appearance of Golden Freddy. The magically changing posters. Things like that. You could say, well, ghosts are doing it. Okay, well, that's fine, but if there is magic, and if ghosts can transmute things and switch things around and move things, they can move Freddy around, Golden Freddy, just teleport him around or whatever the hell, however you explain that. Why are they held back by a door? Why are they in any way hindered by anything? Why can't they magically turn your guts inside out? I mean, it's like, if you're going to introduce magical elements of haunting, that kind of starts to mess with the idea of why are they hindered by physical things? Why are they hindered by the constructions of man if they are ethereal and supernatural and so on and so forth, and they can magically change anything they want? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. The fact that they... And this is sort of a fan theory / supported by the game. I think a lot of what happened was there was no explanation for the first game, for the most part. And then, fan theory kind of informed the sequel as to what they put in as story elements, saying, oh yeah, this fan theory is interesting, let's do that one. Let's put that in as truth. The fact that they never found these dead kids. They supposedly were stuffed into the animatronics, and people reported, oh, there's blood and mucus around the eyes of the animatronics and blah, blah, blah. Nobody ever fucking checked the animatronics for what the hell was going on. Are you kidding me? Have you ever smelled a corpse? I have never smelled a corpse. I hear that it stinks very badly. And you're going to say that 4 or 5 dead kids have been in this restaurant, in the animatronics, center stage, okay? The focal point of the entire restaurant, and nobody has smelled a cadaver. Nobody has said, gee, maybe some kid put something disgusting on or in these animatronics. We better take a look and clean them. No. We're just going to leave corpses in the animatronics at the center of the room. It don't make no sense. It don't make sense. Another thing that doesn't make sense is why the animatronics look at the camera. Why are they looking at the camera, okay? If you say in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, it's because they're possessed by spirits. Ooh, boogie, boogie, boogie. Okay, well, fine. They're looking at the camera to try to scare you or whatever. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, they supposedly are not possessed yet. I don't know. That's what people say. So, this could be incorrect, but there's no reason for them to look at the camera. They're tied into a predator database, and they recognize the faces of people who are predators in the database. Is the camera... is a security camera registered as a sexual predator? Is that why they're staring at the camera? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How would an animatronic robot know that another machine, the camera, is something that a person is looking through? I mean, without the element of a haunting, that's totally out the window. Alright, so I don't know what else we got here. I got like some basic little notes I just wrote out here. Why do the animatronics have teeth? The costume, you could say the teeth are for decoration in Freddy Fazbear's mouth, in Bonnie's mouth, etc. The endoskeletons inside also have rows of teeth. Why? Why would anyone build animatronics with teeth? It has to be that these were created to be killing machines from the beginning, and if that turns out to be the story element, then fine. But if it turns out to be they were just regular animatronics that are possessed, or what have you, or that they're regular animatronics that are just tied into a criminal database, why do they have the fucking teeth? Why? Speaking of animatronics and criminal database systems, in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is a prequel, it takes place in the 1980s, and the animatronics are tied in to a criminal database. How? How exactly? Is it on the internet? Are they connecting via Wi-Fi to download the database? Is it stored on them? Where is the criminal database kept? I don't see that happening in the 1980s. In the 1980s, the internet was barely a thing. Computers were barely, used in terms of a wide area. Police stations didn't all have computers. It's hard to believe, but computers did not saturate everything yet. Haven't looked this up, but there most likely was no sexual predator or predator database that was in a digital format in 1980, whatever this takes place in. It just doesn't make sense. It's like something that wasn't thought through. I don't know. And I'm not trying to harangue anybody. It's just, come on, you could have done so much better if you just either kept it simple, don't explain anything, and have it just be a total mystery, or do a little bit of looking into what things were and what happened and what is or isn't available back then. I don't know. Yeah. It's certain things like the flashlight on the cameras when you're in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and rewinding a music box remotely. How are we doing that in the 1980s? How are we sending that signal to the music box? And by the way, get a tape. Have something that loops. Why does it have to be wound if it's keeping something sedate that's very evil? Get a looping tape. Or, I don't know, fucking every night strap the box shut. Or put something heavy on the lid. I don't know. But anyway, this is all kind of moot because animatronics, the real life situation is that animatronics are not made to walk around. They're made to do basic movements. Hey, herky jerky, jerky jerky, I'm playing a trombone, yeah. While a tape plays nearby. The sound isn't actually coming from the animatronic. The animatronic, all it does is move its arms up and down, move its head back and forth, that type of thing. To say you have free-roaming robots in the 1980s just throws the whole thing out the window because we don't have free-roaming robots now in 2014 going on 2015. How did they have them in the 1980s? It just don't make no sense. But, yeah, I don't know. The biggest problem I have with the Five Nights at Freddy's 2, in terms of what I feel like is kind of like a little bit like laziness in the writing, is Mangle, okay? The new Foxy. Mangle is a disassembled or half disassembled robot. And the explanation for that is, kids couldn't keep their hands off it, so we just left it in disrepair, and now they go a step further in the story and say, now we let kids take it apart and put it back together as a play experience. What are you talking about? You're letting kids take things apart that have electrical components, that have bolts and, any number of sharp shit in there, small pieces you could swallow, and, it just is, it is beggars belief. You cannot, it doesn't make any sense. And if that's a lie, then okay. The phone guy just lies to you all the time, sure, whatever. But, how is it, if kids are taking it apart and putting it back together, how is it in working condition at all? How can it move? Because, if little kids are just ripping that shit apart and putting it all together and doing whatever they want with it, that thing is probably just going to be twitching on the floor. Because nothing's going to be put back together right. I don't know. The it just beggars belief. I can't stress that enough. And I guess this all goes, beyond, as I said, different things that are really, really, really nitpicks. Like, you have the weakest fucking generator. In Five Nights at Freddy's, the first one, you have the weakest generator in existence. In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you have the, weakest flashlight, ever. I mean, try running a flashlight. Just put a flashlight on, leave it on, and go to sleep at night, and see if it's still on when you wake up. I'll bet you anything it is. But, I don't know. It's the number one problem, and this is the last thing I'll touch on. The number one problem with this game is the phone guy. He brings all the problems into the story, because he tells you, oh, well, Mangle is taken apart and put back together by little toddlers who, don't swallow the parts and go to the hospital. No. He tells you the animatronics are in free roaming mode, which, of course, is bullshit, because we don't have free roaming robots in 2014, let alone the 80s or 2009 or whatever the first one took place in. He is the one who tells you that the animatronics are tied into a Predator database in the 1980s, which any person in the 1980s would say, a Predator what? What the fuck are you talking about? So, if Phone Guy is a liar, if he's, full of bullshit, that would explain everything, because those are all just lies. And so you don't have to take them at face value. But, he doesn't, there's nothing to tell us that. There's nothing to tell us he's full of shit. And in fact, he ends up dying in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, which you would think if he was behind everything, or if he was part of the Illuminati of Five Nights at Freddy's, you think he wouldn't be killed, but I don't know. He just introduces a lot of problems. He dies at the wrong time of day. He, in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, is killed by the animatronics, supposedly. But the animatronics that night are all on the stage, and they start coming down off the stage during the game. Was he leaving at that day, and they said, well, we're going to get off the stage early, and we're going to kill this guy. Hoo, 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 hoi, 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 and Freddy. Yeah. But it just doesn't make sense. And the way he leaves the messages don't make sense. He's always going, hello? Hello? Well, we made it to your second night. If he's leaving messages for you, why is he saying hello? Who is he saying hello to? Is he expecting you to pick up during his recording of a message earlier that day? How is the message coming to you? Does he have something programmed to call you and, tell you the message? The phone rings, and it's a message from him playing. When is the last time you had a phone call? Well, I guess telemarketers. Maybe he has a auto dialer like they do, where you pick up the phone and it goes, don't hang up. We are giving away affordable rates on, giant buckets of dog vomit. I don't know. It just don't make sense. Don't make sense, kid. And I don't know. There's a lot more I have issue with, like, in terms of choices, but they aren't really mistakes or glaring problems. I understand why the game is liked, and I do think that it's a great idea. I just wish that it had done a few things differently, because it takes me right out of the game. I can't really get scared by it, and, if you've seen my channel, you know that I don't get scared by any of the games I'm playing, but I can't really get freaked out or jump scared by it, because the entire time I'm thinking, nah, that's dumb. That's pretty silly. I'm going to get jump scared by a bear in a few seconds, but right now I'm hearing, hello, hello, and I'm thinking to myself, who are you saying hello to? Why? I don't know. But yeah, it's a popular game, got a lot of fan art, got a lot of fan theories, fan fiction, /fiction, etc. and so forth. Got Hot Chica now, as per Rule 34, probably. But I don't know, I was slightly disappointed. Alright, well, if you enjoyed the game, leave a comment, say you liked the game. I totally don't. I don't look down on anybody for enjoying anything. Give me a break. but I just felt like I needed to get some things off my chest about what I thought. Stuff that's been bugging me about the game, and every time I see discussion about it, I'm like, I don't really want to join this discussion and say what I don't like, because then I'm just shitting on everyone's parade. But on my own channel, in my own opinion video, that way, you know, if you don't want to know it, if you don't want to hear it, you don't have to listen. You can turn it off and say, la la la, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. And so on and so forth. But yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 doesn't make sense. Okay. Goodbye, everybody!